When we're talking about difficult regions, two regions always comes to mind, Kola Peninsula and Amur. But only two difficult regions. Is that enough? Hard regions have their own pros and cons. Some of the good things about difficult regions is the fact that you have to think about your strategy, you have to spend more time picking routes and being more careful. So all of the decisions that you make actually matters and matters a lot. And so many people like a good challenge, and overcoming a difficult challenge is actually feels really nice. So the feeling that you have after you complete a difficult mission in a difficult region is very good. You're like, wow, I finally did it in a very good way. But on the other hand, there are bad things about difficult regions too. One of the things I don't like is the fact that the trucks that you can use are very limited. In a region like Scandinavia or the New Austria region, you can pretty much use any truck that you want. Yes, for some missions, better trucks are more useful, but it doesn't mean that you always have to use a truck like Zig 612H. But in a region like Amur, you just have to go for the best trucks that you have. I know you can use a truck like International HX520, but actually driving that thing in a region like Amur is very painful. So I personally don't do that. And this is something that could be bad and good at the same time. In difficult regions, you just have to spend a lot more time in that region. So everything is going to take such a long time to complete. So for some people, it could be a bad thing. For some people, it could be a good thing. But maybe crawling in snow for like 15 minutes is not fun for everyone. But overall, in hard regions, everything just matters. Your fuel, the trailers you're using, the trucks you're using, the routes you're picking, everything matters. Now, is it a good idea to have more difficult regions? Usually I would say no, because I would like to have peace and quiet when I'm driving around in SnowRunner. But I think at this point, having a difficult region is not a bad idea for a couple of reasons. The first one is the trucks that we got lately. We got things like Zig 612H, Kenworth 963, FEM 3780, and the Plaid 450. These are like some monster of trucks. These are incredibly good trucks. And we really didn't get a region to actually test them and actually see how tough they are in a very difficult region. The next reason is we simply just didn't get a difficult region in a long time. And again, some people enjoy those regions, so it's not a bad idea to give them a region that they like too. And in the past two regions, in Almaty region and Austria region, we got new things like those stones that break, or this part of the road that was destroyed and could break even more if you drove on them. So those things and more could be added to a difficult region and make it more interesting. And since you're aiming to create a difficult region, you could add some new things that make the game a bit more difficult that we don't already have. So it doesn't need to be limited to the things that we already have. Now, something else that I want to say, I've already mentioned that things just take more time to complete in difficult regions. And right now, in some of the newer regions, we have this thing that some contracts require a lot of cargo. The contract is not difficult. It just requires a ton of cargo. And because of that, you have to just spend more time to complete that contract. So maybe if we're going for a difficult region, we could decrease the number of cargoes that we need to deliver, add more contracts. So in this way, still it's going to take a long time to complete that region, but instead of just doing the same thing over and over again, going up and down the same road over and over again to deliver like 10 logs, instead of that, you're doing different contracts in a difficult region. So since we have to struggle with the environment and the road and like deep mud or snow, each trip is going to take longer, but you don't need to deliver 25 metal beams. Now, what I just said is not something that I want to see it in like every region or all the time, but since we haven't got a difficult region and like so many contracts lately been very big and required many cargoes, instead of like making the region longer with the number of cargoes, we make the region longer by just increasing the difficulty a bit. Now, one more thing I want to say is if we get a new difficult region, I hope it wouldn't be something covered in ice and snow. I personally am not a big fan of that, especially those breakable ice. I'm not a big fan of it. And like the two like most difficult regions are very identical. Like it's just snow and ice. So I hope it would be something different. I'm okay with having a snow in that region like Scandinavia or Maine, but I really don't want it to be something completely covered in ice and snow. And it could be something new too. Like I would always love to see new things in the game. Like, so I don't know, like maybe a region with sand and we play SnowRunner. So overall, I don't think it's a bad idea to go for a difficult region right now, since the last difficult region we got was like a long time ago. And as I've said, so many people like to play in difficult regions. So having another difficult region is not a very bad idea. But I think with difficult regions, they just have to be very careful with everything they do. I think it's like a bit more difficult for them to make a hard region. That's it for today's video. I see you in the next one.